Hello everyone, it's Shane Kanto, your Wasteland reviewer, and I'm here to review The Wheel of Time, and this is the first season on Amazon, and this is based off of the long-standing fantasy series from Robert Jordan, and I myself have read through all of these books. There's like 15 of them at this point, and Robert Jordan wasn't able to finish all of them and had another writer finish up the series, but this is one of the most influential and most renowned fantasy book series of all time. And of course, it's time to make a series out of it. And it just kind of feels like part of the long history and the long tradition of fantasy series that, it's hard to make fantasy work, especially in live action, because you have to do all this world building. You have to create this believable world for your audience to get drawn into. And with this series, I never felt like this was a fully realized world because of a variety of reasons. First off, sometimes it felt like they looked more like cosplayers than like actual people in these costumes and these outfits during in this fantasy world, which that's not great. If you look like somebody from like a convention has a more convincing outfit than you, and you're in this very, 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 very large budgeted fantasy series, there's probably an issue. And then the iffy effects too, which makes it feel even cheaper. Like this looked like sci-fi channel original TV show kind of special effects, and that's definitely not a good look either. And I just feel like this series is really overstuffed and trying to balance too many characters, and it wouldn't be as much of an issue if these characters were interesting, which most of them don't turn out to be. And there's some exciting action moments, there's some really creepy imagery. Like there's this one particular city towards the end of like the second or third episode where like these dark shadows are overcoming them, and that was exciting and interesting. And that actually was a big turning point for the series where it fractured this group of people, and then things just weren't as interesting after that as they were all off on their own doing their own thing. And then you have this one episode that's probably one of the most interesting ones, is dealing with Rosamund Pike, who's like the one big veteran actor in this series who really anchors the series in many ways, having this like returning to where she's from and has some interesting connections with some of the other characters. I'm like, okay, I think this is interesting. And then it would cut back to like the younger people in the cast, and it's just like, yeah, they're not as interesting, and their performances aren't as strong, and I don't feel a connection here. And towards like the end of this, the season finale, there's some weight. People get hurt, people get killed, and you're just kind of like, who are they again? Why do I care? And you don't want that in a series, especially when it's like you're trying to build this ensemble, and the ensemble just doesn't feel very well realized or very interesting. And it does a lot of trying to do like setup for like the bigger perspective of the series with the whole Wheel of Time and the Dragon Reborn, and it just never feels like you really care that much. And even when like the action kicks in, like there's one part of like the season finale where it's like this big invasion, and it's just so dark with all the special effects too. It's like barely see anything, so you kind of lose the power of that sequence. And I don't know, this has some interesting setups because, this is a really successful series. It's an interesting concept. And whether it's something where it's just like, at this point, the story doesn't feel as fresh or interesting because, this has probably influenced a lot of other things. Or it's just a matter of like, they didn't really capture a whole lot of interesting characteristics or ideas when it comes to a lot of these characters, and you're kind of just like, well, I'm going to go through the motions of just going from place to place, fantasy area to fantasy area and hope that people just enjoy the journey. And I just kind of felt bored and disconnected from it and kind of disappointed me. So I don't know if my standards are just really high for fantasy, but this one just kind of was meh. It was watchable. It was enjoyable enough, but it wasn't something that blew me away, and I'm not super excited for a second season. This is one of the kinds of things where it's like, oh, it's Friday. I gotta watch this new episode of The Wheel of Time, which sucks, because that is not how I wanted to go into the series, and they better do better with Lord of the Rings. That's all I'm saying. Thanks, Amazon. But those are my thoughts on the first season of The Wheel of Time. Let me know what you think, and let's talk some TV. But thank you as always for tuning in and supporting your Wasteland reviewer.